Dave Aranda added in a social media post, Alex was a beloved member of our Baylor family, and we are devastated by this loss. In his time at Baylor, he made a long-lasting impact on all of us in the program. Our hearts are broken, and our prayers are with his family, friends, and all those who loved him so deeply. Uh, to get into, it's unfortunate because I've searched for it, and I do have a little bit on Alex Foster, the young man. And before we get into that, there are some details around the death. This is a CNN report. This was posted yesterday evening. And he died. He suffered multiple gunshot wounds in a car in his Mississippi hometown. And that was in Greenville. Now, the Washington County Coroner's Office confirmed to the AP that he was shot dead. He was 18 years old. And this is the underbelly of all this, and this just like, there is a crime aspect to this. The shooting was part of a surge of violent crimes that the Greenville mayor, actually, Eric Simmons, said in an address that threatens the community. Simmons said the city had actually issued a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. to curb the violence, which has the reason behind it is because this was preceded, this incident, by what he called multiple shootings and senseless killings. Now, Greenville, Mississippi, I'm somewhat familiar with this area. I don't want to call it no man's land, but it is a part of the map in America where it's extremely rural. I lived in Monroe, Louisiana for about 2 years, and it is not far from Northeast Louisiana. It's part of that like Arklamis, you're right there. You got Northeast Louisiana, you have Eastern Arkansas, you have Mississippi, and that's where this young guy grew up, and that's where this violence had broken out. He was taken to the hospital, and he died about 30 to 40 minutes after he was taken to the hospital. There's no arrests that have been made so far. Police are still investigating. But just an awful, awful, tragic situation. And to a little bit of this guy as a man, from what I can gather, and also I have a little bit of, I don't even want to say I have any kind of understanding what the Baylor football team is going through, but the year after I left the University of Richmond, we had a freshman drown in the lake right after football camp had broken, and I'll get into that a little bit. Because obviously something, when you're close to a program, it hurts everybody, and everybody comes together, right, to support who they can. Most importantly, this young guy, Alex Foster's family, and for the young men supporting one another. And this kid was not only, from what I've gathered, not only a very good football player, but a very strong young man with integrity and with a huge heart. You look at just his story, okay? He was recruited to play for Dave Aranda, did not get a bunch of playing time last year. In his recruitment by Baylor, he stayed loyal to Baylor because late in the game, he was actually offered by Texas. Okay, so this is a very, very good football player. But the indication of him being a very good man is that he keeps his word to Dave Aranda and Baylor, and he stays the course and goes to Baylor. This is last year. Then played sparingly last year, gets the red shirt, right? I mean, I can tell, having called a Baylor game last year for ESPN, he wasn't on my depth chart, right? If he was, I don't recall it, and I'm pretty good with the recall and understanding and knowing who's on there. However, this year, he was supposed to really make an impact. Cam Stewart, who does Locked On Baylor, and does have journalism in his bones and covers Baylor football extremely close, or is extremely close to Baylor football, talked about yesterday that this was a young guy who was really going to see some playing time this year. And he had reinvested with Baylor. If you're a guy who gets offered by Texas and then you go your freshman year to Baylor and you don't play at all, a lot of guys are going to hit the transfer portal. No knock on them. This guy didn't do that. Okay, he returned to Baylor. He was set to come back in about a week or so, right? And then this tragedy befalls his family. And that's really the most important part of this is, like, how's his family doing? We hope they're doing okay. And, it just, the situation just absolutely blows. And I can tell you, back to the situation I somewhat have a little familiarity with. I just got off the phone with Matt Davis, who was one of my best friends in the world and was the captain of that Richmond football team when Donnie Lindsay, a teammate, drowned in that lake right after football camp broke at Richmond. And I can tell you, I was asking Matt about, he was like, he said it was just awful. And he said, being a captain, it gave you an opportunity to serve a little bit more in a tragic time like that. But he said, there's no cure for that kind of grief. And that we're just talking among teammates in the football team. He made a very good point. I asked him what he recalled from that, being on campus as part of the football family. And, this is something, I don't even think we can keep an eye on this, or why would we? It would be like a low rent thing to do. But as far as like impact and who it affects, Matt said the Coach Reed, our head coach, was affected the most. Which he said he could kind of see it wearing on him. Because if you're Coach Reed, or if you're Dave Aranda, or if you're any head coach at any level of football, especially big-time football, right? We're talking, Baylor, obviously bigger than Richmond, but we're talking about still you go to your recruit's living room and you offer him a full scholarship, and you look his parents in the eye, you say, I'm going to take care of him, and then something like this happens. It's devastating. And I think that Dave Aranda quite possibly could be hit the hardest by this. And whoever, and I don't know the situation, whoever was hands-on recruiting Alex Foster, that person obviously did a phenomenal job because, and maybe it was Dave Aranda, but the fact that he's offered by Texas after Baylor, he stays loyal. That was reported by CBS Sports. I can read you the quote. Foster was the highest-rated high school signee in the Bears 2024 recruiting class after starring at St. Joseph's High School in Greenville. He remained loyal to Baylor during his recruitment, despite a late offer from Texas and interest from various other elite programs. 24/7 Sports rated the 6'5", 292-pound defender as the number 44 defensive tackle in the 2024 cycle and the 13th best player out of Mississippi. What does all that matter? I mean, nothing now that he's gone. But it is a way to remember and celebrate this young guy because he had a unique skill set on the football field. And I look forward to learning more about what he was like off the field. Because scouring the web and stuff, it was hard to get any real personal stories on this guy. But, heart breaks for his family. That's the most important, right? And, Baylor football, obviously thinking about that program right now. Real tough to move forward after something like that. And the faith and the spirituality and foundation that school is built on, right, will hopefully be the place where everybody can go right now to try to find a little bit of relief, right, and help one another. So